Sugar in the diet has enjoyed a high level of publicity in recent years, with some experts blaming our sugar intake, and in particular our consumption of sugary drinks, for the increase in obesity which has occurred in most developed and many less developed countries in the past 50 years. What are the facts behind these headlines? The most familiar form of sugar is table sugar, or sucrose. Sucrose is classed as a disaccharide as it's made of two molecules of simple sugars, one of glucose and one of fructose. Sugars are highly soluble in water, so they're good for making syrups and sweetening liquids. They're also important in fermentation processes used in baking, brewing, and other industries. We are all born with a strong taste preference for sugar, but in early human societies, the only sources of sugar were wild or cultivated fruit or honey. In the 18th century, cultivation of sugarcane in the plantations in the West Indies began on a large scale. This was made possible by the slave trade, which saw West Africans shipped to work on the plantations, mostly under terrible conditions. Raw cane sugar was shipped to the UK and refined into table sugar by removal of molasses and other impurities. Initially, table sugar was a luxury commodity, but it soon became cheaper and formed a large part of the diet of working families in the newly industrialised cities. Most of the sugar was used to sweeten tea or in home-produced jams, cakes, biscuits and puddings. Sugar consumption in the UK continued to rise during the 20th century, apart from the years of the two world wars. In the food rationing at the end of the Second World War, sugar was rationed to 8 ounces per adult per week. When rationing was lifted, sugar consumption rose again, and by the 1960s, Britons were eating about 50 kilograms per person per year, or one large 1 kilogram bag per week. In the last few decades, there has been a gradual decrease in the amount of sugar we eat, but a major change in the way we eat it. Much less is bought as table sugar, while much more is consumed in soft drinks and processed foods such as biscuits, cakes, confectionery, and even savoury foods such as sauces.